Baby boomers are retiring, and soon they'll start filling up nursing homes all over the country.
Before you choose a home for yourself or maybe a loved one, of course you're going to want to see what Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson found.
He does have troubling information about some nursing homes repeatedly caught putting their residents in harm's way.
And Ted, there's no doubt nursing homes are heavily regulated. They have hundreds of state and federal guidelines designed to ensure they are providing a safe and healthy environment for the most vulnerable among us. But while some nursing homes perform very well, there are others with a pattern of poor quality care that could put you or a loved one in jeopardy. When Richard Witt was a younger man, he had the talent of an Olympic figure skater and the good looks to land any girl he wanted. But there was only one.
And before you know it, the wedding bells were ringing.
Richard and Kathy Witt were married on November 23rd, 1963.
It was the day after President Kennedy was assassinated.
They spent the next 44 years raising a family in Hartford, where Richard was elected mayor in 1983.
Kath.
But politics were never really Kathy's thing.
Give me a wave.
She preferred to be outdoors, interacting with nature, and playing with her grandchildren.
And it was a good life.
The good life got harder when Kathy was diagnosed with cancer in 1990.
The doctors at that time were telling me that she had maybe 2 weeks to live.
But Kathy was a fighter. She survived ovarian cancer, then brain cancer, cervical cancer, spine cancer, and finally breast cancer. 5 cancers in 18 years, and Kathy beat them all.
They didn't even classify it as remission. They classified it as cured, gone.
Still, the near constant regimens of radiation and chemotherapy left Kathy so frail that Richard had little choice. In 2008, he took her to a nursing home in Mayville, about 20 miles north of Hartford.
There were certain rules that I gave to the nurses. That one was, of course, respond as fast as you can when she rings the bell.
Richard would tuck Kathy into bed each night and return the next day after work, until one day when Richard arrived to find staff members huddled around his wife.
And in the middle was Kathy laying on the floor with a pool of blood on her right side.
She had fallen from her bed and struck her head on the floor. She was flown to Froedtert Hospital.
I kept talking to her, told her how much I love her.
The next day, Richard made the heart-wrenching decision to remove his wife from life support.
And then the nurse came in and she said, "Mr. Witt, she's gone."
What happened at Mayville Nursing and Rehab would become the subject of a wrongful death lawsuit and testimony before the Wisconsin State Assembly.
The alarm did go off at the nurse's desk, so she did try to get somebody to help her.
2 years ago, Richard Witt told state lawmakers that his wife wasn't supposed to get up without assistance and a blood pressure check. But when she pressed the nurse call button that day, nobody came, so she tried to get up on her own.
One nurse walking down the hall with another patient happened to look in her room, noticed her sitting on the edge of the bed, yelled back down the hallway stating that Kathy's sitting on the edge of the bed. Looks like she wants to get up, and the other nurse called back, "Well, I'll get there as soon as I can."
By the time anybody got there, Kathy was already on the floor.
Granted, you got a lot of patients up and down these halls, but that's not my problem. That's your problem.
The lawsuit was dismissed after an out-of-court settlement. But in the years since Kathy's death, Mayville Nursing and Rehab has been repeatedly cited by state and federal inspectors for providing residents with poor quality care. A Fox 6 investigation finds that no other Wisconsin nursing home has been fined more money for health violations the past 3 years than Mayville. And Mayville ranks second in the state for level 4 violations, deficiencies so serious that inspectors say they put residents in immediate jeopardy of injury, impairment, or death. Like a medication mix-up last spring when one resident was given another resident's psychiatric pills. And another one last summer when a nurse ignored a resident's request to go to the hospital for back pain and trouble breathing. Turns out she had fluid on her lungs.
We have people that are being neglected and abused.
Mark Thompson is an attorney who routinely sues nursing homes over allegations of neglect or misconduct. But he says a new law favorable to nursing homes could block the initial reports of harmful incidents from being used against them in a civil or criminal lawsuit.
Does it make it harder to sue nursing homes?
Sure, and that's the whole purpose of it.
It was just one facet of a sweeping tort reform bill that passed the Wisconsin legislature in 2011. The bill Richard Witt was testifying against.
I think it takes away the accountability.
The Wisconsin Healthcare Association says the new law does not make it harder to sue nursing homes, but merely clarifies the rules. And in a statement to Fox 6 News, a spokesman says the incidents we've uncovered represent a minute fraction of the total patient care statewide. But Thompson says that's no comfort to those who've been harmed.
They are completely at the mercy and trust the nursing home that they're in.
Mayville is far from the only facility with a pattern of problems. Kindred Transitional Care and Rehab in Milwaukee has had more violations the past 3 years than any other nursing home in the state. Lake Terrace in Milwaukee has had the most Level 4 violations. And Sunrise Care Center in Milwaukee has been cited with multiple Level 4 deficiencies each of the past 3 years. Both Mayville and Sunrise are owned by Milwaukee-based Extendicare. In a prepared statement, a company spokeswoman writes, "We take all inspections very seriously. We have corrected the issues identified in our previous surveys, and both centers are in substantial compliance with all state and federal regulations."
They got some real problems.
Witt knows there are good nursing homes out there. But after losing the love of his life to a fatal fall, you can hardly blame him for wanting nothing to do with them.
I told my boys, don't ever put me in a home. When my day comes, the good Lord's going to take me and just let me go.
The inspection data and records we relied upon for the story are based on regulations that apply to all 392 Wisconsin nursing homes. And while some facilities do a good job of keeping up with those demands, others seem to have these serious problems year after year.
So you touched on a few or 4 nursing homes in your story, but you said there's almost 400. Where do you go to get information on the rest of them?
There really is a lot of information that's out there, and it's easy to get information overload. But one of the best websites that's out there is actually Medicare. They have a great website for comparing nursing homes, and the Wisconsin Department of Health Services at the state level has a lot of information on its website. We have links to both of those pages. Plus, we have our own computer analysis that ranks homes with the most total violations, the most serious violations, and more. All of that's available at fox6now.com. Of course, it also helps just to go and pay a visit to any nursing home you might be considering. See for yourself.
Ask a lot of questions.
Absolutely.
Brian Polson, thanks.
All right.
Their worlds collided on I-94 on Milwaukee.